Hey, welcome back to GMFOT. That's what it looks like.
Yes,
That's what television looks like.
Busted.
Busted. Kyle, you get out of here.
Busted.
This is GMFB Overtime. We got music playing in the background. We got makeup artists running off the set. This is where we need to start, okay? We have a friend at the table. Vernon Davis out. Yogi Roth in. What's going on?
What's up, Yogi?
Excited to be here. I remember recruiting you way back in the day. We got a lot of mutual connections. Ted Robinson, Michael Mulliner from your sideline days.
Yeah.
I'm huge fans of you guys on this show, so thanks for having me.
So great to see you and have you at the table. You are a California guy, but you got your hands in a lot of different fires here, don't you? Between games, production. What are you up to?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing for me, I've always believed that, like, our job as analysts or hosts is to celebrate the game and then coach the viewer, especially now in this era, because the era has changed. I mean, remember when you were getting recruited, like, you might have been a ranking. You always wore a helmet. We have to compete to take the helmets off. And now, you remember your days in the SEC, players are transactions now. So I think in college football, like, how do we celebrate the game? How do we tell the stories of these players, especially quarterbacks, like five-star QBs, the hype thrown on them? You were one of those huge recruits. It's a challenge. They never ask for it. So we got to help them make sure they tell their story, because most don't pan out. Most don't become the #1 draft pick. The numbers bear that in fact.
Quick, Yogi, tell your story. So just why you're here, one of the reasons why people like to listen to your takes on football is you're a Pennsylvania guy, you go to Pitt, and you lived with who when you were there?
A receiver you guys probably heard of every once in a while. First 2 years, it was Antonio Bryant. Last 2 years was Larry Fitzgerald.
There we go.
It was like Biletnikoff winner. I got to learn and sit behind you. I'm glad they were there, but it would have been nice if they were not there so I could play a little bit more.
Sure.
But I got to learn what it was like to be a pro from both of those guys, elite players. I can remember day one for Larry, I was like that big brother for him. So they had to teach him how to do everything. So we'd go to the game, and we had to wear a suit to the game. But afterwards, you wore, like, your warm-up suit. Well, Larry, of course, put a suit on. So I go up to him just like you would as a vet, and I was like, hey, man, like, you don't have to wear that. And he said, no, I'm gonna. They're going to know what I'm about from the jump. And if you think about his career from that moment forward, he was always, like, defined as a true professional. He's the same way now. Like, I go see him in Arizona when I'm out there for a game, and he's never just, like, rocking sweats. Like, he's always to the nines. He's like you. He's always dressed well.
All right, so Yogi, you got this documentary that follows 3 quarterbacks around, including Cam Newton. You know, we had Cam on the show back at the draft, and we were trying to draw comparisons between he and Caleb Williams. Cam, so much hype, obviously the #1 overall pick as well. But you remember, there was things when he was coming out where Cam had a, quote, fake smile. Cam was on record that he wanted to be an entertainer, and he took a lot of heat for that. In their image and their play in the total package, what comparisons do you see between Cam and Caleb?
I love the question and the research, of course. I mean, that was 2009. The doc was 3 for the show. It was Jake Locker, Tyrod Taylor, and Cam Newton. It was the first time you got access, first time a quarterback was ever mic'd up for a game. Like, we just followed these guys and poured into it. And you're right, there's a lot of comps. Since that, I ended up writing a book called 5-Star QB, which dove into guys like Cam Newton and the history of the 5-star quarterback. And just for the numbers, 140 quarterbacks, including Cam and Caleb, since the year 2000, that were named 5-star QBs. Only 7 were drafted #1 overall, and you know all of their names. You don't have to say first and last. Only 20 were first-round picks. So most guys are busts. So what are the similarities? I think it's everybody telling you who you are. I think what made Caleb so unique is that he understood that was coming. Like, he front-loaded mental skills, whether that was Lincoln Riley, whether it was family, the people around him. And I think that's what's allowed him to be able to navigate this Shark Tank at the quarterback room and or the media with, I don't say relative ease, because it's not easy for anybody, but able to navigate it and manage it and read the coverage before it's coming. I think for Cam, that was even before its time. Nobody really knew how to navigate that on the outside, so there was so much criticism. Not a lot of people come to his defense. I think for Caleb, people say, hey, man, like, yes, he's a 1%, and their first true NIL quarterback in the transfer portal era, #1 pick, the #1 kid coming out of high school. And I think people give him probably a little bit more grace sometimes, just because what we've seen over the course of the last few years in recruiting, social media. I mean, you know what that's like more than anybody, man. So I think that is the biggest difference, but both just gifted players.
You know, I'm so grateful you're here, Yogi, because I have a son, okay? And when he came into my life, I told my wife he's not playing defensive football. He's going to be a quarterback. And the reason why I wanted him to be a quarterback was for a few reasons. One, all the rules nowadays in football protect the quarterback. You can't hit him below the knees, you can't hit him above the shoulder, you can't hit him in the head, and you can't land on him. So I'm like, you're going to play quarterback. Secondly, your daddy was a linebacker. So I know everything about defensive football. I'm going to help you just dissect defenses and all of that stuff. So for the past couple of years, Yogi, I've been trying to go on this self-education process. I've talked to Uncle Nalu Tagovailoa, who is Tua's dad. Dylan Raiola is my nephew. He was the #1 quarterback from last year in high school. He's at Nebraska now. And I've been trying to pick their brains about what are some things I can teach my son, some drills, things I can do with him that's going to prepare him, or in your opinion, what can I do with him that can prepare him to be a successful quarterback?
Well, right now, just take it back to Hawaii, right? You got Marcus, you got Dylan Gabriel. I mean, there's so many players that have come from there. They're so talented. I just had Dylan on my podcast, Why Option. You need to listen to it because his journey went from no offers to going to one of the academies to then Georgia and SC come in at the last minute. He says, no, I want to go play. So he goes to UCF and balls, and then goes to OU, and now he's at Oregon. I'm going to Oregon this week, calling their home opener to kick off the season. And I just say that the best quarterbacks, the #1 thing I would teach them is, yes, you have to be a competitor. Yes, you have to be accurate. But really, how do you navigate adversity, and are you a seeker? So every summer, we do the Elite 11. You should come. It's basically you think of American Idol for high school quarterbacks. Kids from all over the country come. They descend upon the South Bay in Southern California where you are. And it's just amazing. Top 20 guys. And every one of them come in super polished. But when we talk to them, all they want to do is let their guard down. They just want to be human again. And we call it the wonder switch, where their wonderment and imagination just gets turned off. Right? When you walked into that note or South Bend, oh, this is amazing. That's off because recruiting does that to a lot of these athletes, or NIL or DMs or whatever it may be. So they're looking to recapture that joy. So what would I tell your kid? Keep seeking that out. Just find people, find community, find environments where you're just going to play. I mean, you don't have to be in a 7-on-7 tournament every weekend, man. That is how that thing gets shut off and fast.
Well, I got some.
Is your child?
He's one. He's one. So, Yogi, I'm so glad you're here because I got some tape. If you watch my son.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Watch my little man. Like, first of all, he's in the Notre Dame gear. That's obvious.
There we go. Coach,
look at that.
Like that.
He's throwing it.
He's getting it. You know,
I like that.
So, Yogi.
Good base, good footwork?
Yeah, you know, we're trying to work with him a little bit. We watched the past 2 NFL drafts, and we're like, son, there's 2 quarterbacks just went #1 overall. Like, we got to work on your form. So, obviously, the effort is there. The passion is there.
The 2-handed throw is going to be a thing.
Yeah, you know, the passion is there. So, you know.
I like it. Look, I got a 9-year-old on a flag team. He's running QB. We can get him in a couple drills. I'll steal this. I stole this from Trent Dilfer. We do it at the Elite 11. The quote, the limiting factor in reaching your potential is flawed mechanics. Right now, he doesn't look flawed at all.
Thank you, Yogi. Thank you, Yogi. We had a little flick of the wrist. A little flick.
You mentioned high school football, and I'm thinking about my 12-year-old son, you know, as high school is just in front of him. But I start looking at the landscape of recruiting with the portal system, right? And how the portal system have now gone to where you don't really have to go into the the 3-star, 4-star high schoolers. How is this going to impact like high school recruiting? Because to me, it looks like right now the 3-star and the 4-star probably aren't that desirable. You're looking at 5-star, and then you're hitting the portal to fill up your roster spots. And I'm like, man, is it going to be that way where you have to maybe try to take an alternative route just to get to a pretty good program?
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, one of the top quarterbacks at Elite 11 last year had to walk on at Florida State. So just give you some context there. I would recommend this, like go to an Ivy, go ball for 3 years and set your market value. Go play, because sometimes the top players who are huge recruits who don't play, they're not even getting their shot because the Blue Bloods can just say, I'm Notre Dame, I'm Oregon, I can go get a guy who's been proven, which makes sense. So either go where you're going to develop or go somewhere where you can play and then go transfer when you get that degree.
All right.
Yogi, thank you. Are we gonna make him stay? Somebody tell me. I know. Yeah. Oh, he's got to go. Dang it. Come back. We'll come back anytime. We got stories. Yeah. We need to talk to you about the pressure in which you're putting on your 1-year-old. Yogi Roth, everybody. Look at him go. What's your podcast called?
Why Option? Why Option?
Why Option. Go listen to it. It's great.
You'll dig it through the lens of the West Coast.
Look at that. Manti's boy.
Yogi, that one just hit.